This video is going to be the first in quite a long series, I'm hoping, of a new project I'm starting, which is going to be 50 images of one particular theme, and that is some new characters that I've developed. So those two characters are Mido and Anya. Mido is a cat. The cat was actually inspired by a lot of drawings that my 7-year-old daughter was doing from actually way back since she was really little, actually. And she's actually got her own Instagram page where we share a lot of the artwork that she's been doing since she's been little, and you'll see the Mido cat appearing quite a lot. So I took inspiration from that. And then the other character is the owner of the cat, or the sort of the main character, which is Anya, who is inspired by my wife. And the idea really was, when I started doing Instagram, I was only posting up photography, and a lot of that photography was inspired by the town in which I live in, which, if for those of you who don't know, it's in the UK. It's a town called, or it's a city called Birmingham, and it really has a very cyberpunk kind of vibe to it. And as I started taking more and more photos, I started to manipulate those photos and started to realize that what I really wanted to do was tell a story through these photos, but I just couldn't do it through photography. I wanted to add characters, and I wanted to get that much more almost manga theme, which I'm really, really inspired by manga, particularly things like, obviously Ghost in the Shell and Akira, and lots of other things which I'm sure you're aware of. But I really wanted to start creating something that brought this world to life, and I couldn't do that with photography. So I really needed to learn how to paint in Photoshop, and that's something that I've only really started recently. I started learning on a site called Skillshare, and I was learning from one of the teachers on there who's absolutely amazing. If you check him out, he's called Hardy Fowler. He's a concept artist. So I've taken a lot of the things that I've learned through that course and started to apply them, and started to learn how to put together images. And you might have seen in some of my older Instagram posts, you see me started to implement those kind of tools and techniques that I've been learning. But what I really wanted to do was start to tell a story, and so I started with this very first image where I brought two characters in. Like I said, Anya and Mido. The woman who you're seeing being drawn right now, who you saw that the reference image underneath was actually a picture of my wife that I took to help position the character here. And you'll see a little bit later the cat will start to get drawn as well, which will be Mido. And I wanted to take these characters on a journey through my Instagram posts so that you could sort of see them travel from one place to the next. This is the very first episode where you're going to see they're kind of in this sort of forest in the foreground, and they're about to travel to this sort of cyberpunk new age type of neon city all the way over there on the other side of the lake. And so you're going to see through the speed drawing here how I'm creating all the different aspects of that city, which took a long time actually, because as you might notice, I'm making a lot of errors and rubbing things out and starting again, and that's because I'm still at the learning phase. The hope for me is that I get to a point where I can do sort of any kind of drawing that I want to and create these worlds much quicker and much more effortlessly, so that I'm much more free to create rather than still in that early learning phase. But it's all a learning curve, it's all a process, and it's going to take time, and I definitely know that. But I am definitely really enjoying the process of putting this all together. The plan for me is, as I said, I wanted to take these characters on a journey, and I wanted each Instagram post to sort of show the audience and show the followers where these characters could go. And you'll see at the end there's a little bit of text that I'm going to bring in as well, so a little bit of almost Anya's thoughts about what's going on, to give you a bit of a clue as to what's happening in the scene. If you haven't already, please go and check out my Instagram page and follow along there, because that's where you'll be able to see all of the images one by one, almost like a storybook. On the reels and on my TikTok as well, you'll just see the very, very quick speed edits, like a 15-second layer build. And the point of this YouTube page is actually for me to talk about the process, a little bit of me creating this artwork, about what I've learned as I've gone along, and a bit about the story as it develops with the characters. This is only the very first episode, so like I said, I'm not editing what I'm going to say. I'm just talking, and whatever comes out comes out. Hopefully I don't get disturbed by anyone. I'm actually recording this stuff pretty late in the evening when my kids have gone to bed, so hopefully I won't get disturbed or have anything to sort of interrupt the flow of what I'm saying. But I take this almost as if it's live. So as you can see here, there's some of the techniques I'm using, like I said, was used from the stuff I learned from Hardy Fowler's course, where it's just taking a lot of textures onto the things I've painted, like these trees here. So going to somewhere like Pixabay, or I actually use Adobe Stock as well, and taking those images and using the soft light blending mode to just make the textures on each of the areas and elements of the painting look just a bit more, not realistic, but actually a bit more painterly. So it feels like almost their brush strokes. There's quite a few really good techniques that I've learned there. So the soft light is one of them. There's also something called paint daubs. There's a filter in Photoshop where you can add to the photos a sort of paint brush stroke almost look, so that it feels like it's painted and it doesn't look completely photorealistic, because that's not what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for a photorealistic sort of look. Having said that, this is very, very early days for me, so I'm still finding a style. I'm still finding a way in which I can create art that will be a style specific to me, so that when you see anything that has the Curious Atom signature on it, hopefully you're going to know it's me. But that I totally understand is a sort of distant sort of dream at the moment. I'm just trying to get things done at the moment so I can create the worlds I want to create the characters I want to create, and tell a story. The journey for me really is going to be starting from now. So what are we in? We're in August at the moment. So I'm hoping that in a year's time, so when we come to August 2021, I'll be able to look back at the journey that the characters have taken and sort of feel that not just the characters have taken the journey, but my art style has taken a journey as well. At the moment, you can see with this image, I mean, it took absolutely ages. I've reduced the speed edit down to 15 minutes or so, but it actually in reality took me around 35 hours to produce this. A lot of it is because I made lots of mistakes and I was still learning. The hope is I can bring the time down of the images within about 6 months to maybe taking me about 5 or 6 hours to produce, maybe over 2 or 3 days. This was sort of over a week, and it was a lot of really long and sleepless nights, just thinking and learning and trying new things out, making mistakes. But there's a well-known saying, isn't there? It's like, if you want to succeed, you've got to be prepared to fail. And so I went into this absolutely prepared to fail. You can see the city that I'm building in the background there. One of the issues I had was trying to push it right into the distance to make it feel like it was far away. I really want to make it look like these two characters are really going to go on a journey here, to a sort of a new, not a magical place, a very interesting place, which is really dense, and there's sort of so much life teeming in there. And that's one of the sort of main goals of this piece, is just to introduce these two characters, yes, but also introduce the world they're about to go into. So from this sort of almost serene, beautiful landscape of these trees, which you can't see because it's almost behind the camera, if you will, you're going to see them venture into this much more urban, or maybe not so sinister, but sort of cyberpunk type of world. The next image in the series, I'm hoping, and don't hold me to it, but the next image in the series, I want it to be them crossing the lake on a boat, and it's almost switching angles so you see what's behind them, so what they're leaving behind. And I'm hoping it's going to be sort of like serene mountain tops, beautiful landscape. And then following that, you'll start to see them venture into the city. The story is going to follow what Anya is aiming to do. She's got some kind of goal, some kind of aim. Like any great story, there's going to be twists along the way. There's going to be mystery, but hopefully it's going to be something that keeps you guys engaged and makes you want to see more and see what's next in store for our characters. Ultimately, what I want to do with it is turn it into a book as well. So like I said at the beginning, I want this to be 50 images which I reckon is going to take me the year to produce, and to produce it well. But I want to then turn that into a book that then gets printed, and it can be sort of like an artifact that I can sell, obviously, that I want to put out there as my first book, but also almost as an artifact of my journey as an artist and trying to make these characters come to life. Their journey is really about my journey as an artist as well. In their story, in Anya's story, I really do want to pull in a lot of references from my wife's background and what she's sort of been through, which I think would be quite interesting. And the cat as well, Mido, I really want to bring in a lot of my daughter's ideas there as well. But again, I don't want it to be a case of too many, what's the saying, too many cooks spoil the broth. Obviously, I want to filter those ideas down, just take those little bits of inspiration. Speaking of inspiration, some people I definitely need to talk about. Like I said, Hardy Fowler, it was really inspiring just in terms of the teaching. He's got a course about architecture, building architecture in Photoshop on Skillshare, so I definitely recommend checking that out. And I'm going to pay for the full Skillshare soon, but I actually got 2 months free trial through an artist called Ergo Josh. You can follow him on YouTube as well, who I've learned quite a lot of just in terms of drawing characters, because that's something he's really good at, and he's spending a lot of time developing. And so I'm going to try and take what I learned from him and feed these into here. But he gave away a free trial to Skillshare a while ago, so that's what I've been using to sort of upskill. Another person I'm really inspired by, which I'm sure everybody knows of in the concept art world, is Ross Draws, or Ross Tran. He's at the time of me recording this video, he's only recently released his book Nima, where he's done a similar thing, where he's brought out these characters, and he's a little bit different in terms of his book. So it's about sort of the different moods of the characters, their bios and things like that. And that's not really what I want to do with the book of Anya and Mido. I want it just to be the story of them traveling through a world using these large images. So kind of a hybrid between a storybook and a comic. I want to keep the words to an absolute minimum, so there's just going to be these sort of single sentences in each of the images, which you'll see a little bit later on be drawn on, where it tells a little bit about what Anya is thinking, or maybe even what Mido's thinking. Where they're going to go at the moment, I'm not entirely sure. One thing I do know, there's a building in the background that you can see there with a big logo on it, which is called Atom Inc., which you might think is a bit cheesy at the moment, but I'm sticking with it. So Atom Inc. is almost like a corporation, and then you can see she's got a jacket that says Atom Inc. on it, and so there's some kind of connection there, whether she was made by this corporation, whether she's a cyborg, a human being, who's been sort of maybe genetically altered or something like that. Oh, by the way, you just saw there an old image. I was pulling in some sci-fi elements into this image that I'd done in a previous painting, but it didn't work out. And actually, if you go onto my Instagram and check out that old painting, it's a very, very sort of first attempt at me really trying to do something serious, but it just didn't work out for me, and it was just so many elements, and it just became confusing, and it became really drab. So I really wasn't happy about that, but there you go. You might have just seen their quick video snap up of I like to listen to a lot of Mind Valley videos, so sometimes I click onto YouTube, so you might see that. Okay, here you can see me detailing the city with lots of lights, full of detail, and we're actually getting towards the end of the video now, so I'm going to just say, I'm really, really hoping that this journey is going to be an interesting one, and I'm hoping that you're going to see the remaining episodes and stay tuned really to find out what happens to the characters. I'm really hoping to share my journey as I learn more about art as well, and the idea of concept art, which is something I'm not particularly strong with at the moment. And hopefully you're going to come along with me for the journey. Look forward to seeing you soon.